You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Humiliation as yet another Bondi bomb fizzles out. Report, based on an article by Matthew Rassa. When the state can't prove its own story. Power, not confusion. This case was never really about one Minnesota classroom assistant. It was about the machinery of federal power deciding that a protest against ICE should be treated like a criminal assault, then discovering it could not sustain the accusation. Trump's Justice Department had the authority, the arrest pipeline, and the public megaphone. What it did not have, after review, was enough evidence to keep the case alive. That matters more than the collapse itself. The state does not accidentally detain people who confront its immigration police. It makes a choice to escalate, then asks the courts to legitimize that escalation after the fact. The story the government wanted. Pam Bondi rushed to post a version of events that made Christina Rank look like a threat to federal agents. DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin supplied the familiar script. ICE as endangered professionals, the protester as reckless aggressor, the arrest as a measured response. That is the political function of these statements. They are not neutral descriptions. They are attempts to convert dissent into danger and enforcement into self-defense. But the government itself later admitted it could not show probable cause for assault. That is not a minor procedural hiccup. It is the legal equivalent of the state saying its first narrative was too thin to survive contact with evidence. Misdirection as method. The public-facing accusation did its work even after the case weakened. Rank was detained, smeared, and made to stand in for a broader warning. Challenge ICE and federal power will come for you. That is the point of overcharging in politically charged cases. The process becomes the punishment, and the original allegation becomes optional. The weak point is not just the prosecutor's failure. It is the deliberate effort to force the burden onto the person with far less institutional power. Rank was the one exposed. Bondi, DHS, and ICE kept their platforms, their authority, and their ability to rewrite the story in real time. A department of spectacle. This is the same Justice Department that keeps embarrassing itself by reaching for obvious overreach and then retreating when the law refuses to cooperate. The attempted $1.8 billion slush fund for Trump-aligned interests, blocked by judges as possible self-dealing, belongs to the same pattern. Use government as a vehicle for patronage and punishment, then act surprised when oversight shows up. Even the reported dismissal rate underscores the problem. When a federal prosecutor's office starts losing the ability to carry its own cases, that is not evidence of a soft judiciary. It is evidence of a degraded political operation trying to weaponize law faster than it can support it. ICE should not exist. If this story has one clear institutional lesson, it is not that ICE needs better messaging or gentler training. ICE is the problem. An agency built to terrorize immigrants and intimidate the people who defend them will keep producing scenes like this. Aggressive enforcement, theatrical accusations, and shaky cases built to justify the violence afterward. There is no credible democratic project that treats that as a staffing issue. Abolish ICE. The real pattern, the larger pattern is plain. Trump world uses federal power to criminalize dissent, especially dissent aimed at immigration enforcement, then relies on spectacle to cover the legal weakness underneath. When the facts do not support the charge, the machinery does not apologize. It just moves on to the next target. That is how authoritarian politics works in practice, not always through clean victories, but through repeated attempts to make fear do the work that evidence cannot. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to AlterNet for today's article. With the automated voice of Lesak, thanks for listening.